Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Long, and I also went to the Sambhavna Clinic in Bhopal, like Iman here, who presented earlier, except I was focusing on medicinal herbs in the Sambhavna Clinic's garden. So Iman talked a lot about the Bhopal gas poisoning. Again, it happened December 3rd, 1984. Methylisocyanate, a component in the pesticide 7, was released all over the city. There are widely varying estimates as to how many people have been killed or injured, but approximately 8,000 to 10,000 were killed that night. And since then, 25 years after, hundreds of thousands have suffered from health effects from the disaster. And even now we're seeing health effects in the second generation of people born in Bhopal who have been drinking contaminated water or been exposed to soil that has these contaminants. So along with, just like Iman, I was at the Sambhavna Clinic, which is a not-for-profit clinic established by many survivors of the disaster and their allies in one of the poorer neighborhoods in Bhopal. It's a very much independently operated organization. They don't accept any funding from the government, from corporations, or from large foundations that are funded by corporations. And they're also unique in that they integrate both Western allopathic conventional medicine and more traditional Indian Ayurvedic medicine. So like I said, I focus most of my time at Sambhavna in their medicinal herb garden. The herb garden is 1 acre surrounding the clinic, and it's sort of like an oasis amongst a very busy and dirty city. So the herb garden has over 100 species of medicinal plants. At last count, there was something like 125. And it's also remarkable in that it's completely organic. There are no synthetic pesticides or fertilizers used. And the pest control and fertilizers that they do use are made from natural ingredients often grown right at the clinic or procured from the surrounding area. And with the plants grown at the garden, the Sambhavna Clinic manufactures over 80 different Ayurvedic medicines in the form of pills, syrups, all kinds of things like that. So in my time in Bhopal, I had several objectives. The first was to document and catalog all the plants grown in the garden and used at the clinic. The second was to document the practices used to turn those plants into useful medicines. And the third was just to volunteer my time there and help out in the garden. So the bulk of my project ended up being cataloging and documenting the plant species, since there were so many, and I was in an environment where I didn't speak the language, and these plants were all new to me. So I was able to identify some of the plants by signage that they had in front of them. So probably about a quarter of the plants had signs in Hindi with the plant's name in Hindi, Sanskrit, and maybe a few other languages, and then their uses. Because of this, I had to learn a little bit of Hindi, and I ended up transliterating some of these signs, transliterating meaning, taking the Hindi characters and converting them into the the English alphabet, so that I could look them up in books and identify them. I also just relied on the knowledge of the clinic gardeners. Ratna, who's pictured here, was extremely valuable, knew everything about all the plants. I also used identification books and keys like that to help me identify some of the plants as well. So I'm probably going to run short on time, so I'll just run through a few of these species. This is the rose hibiscus. This was prescribed often for anemia. The flower itself you can eat, and it apparently works like a charm. Many women take it to help them with anemia. Other parts of the plant are useful too. Here is vinca rosea. That's the Latin name. I forget what that one's used for, but I think it was for an ingredient in pain pills. Here we have 2 trees this one here is the neem tree, and it has many uses. Neem oil is used in a lot of ways in India, but what I thought was most interesting is that the oils extracted from its leaves can also be used as a pesticide. So we would pick these leaves and soak them for about a week or so, and then what separated out from the water was applied, and it repels insects from other crops. And then the other tree is the tamarind tree, imli, which, I mean, can be consumed as food too, like tamarind chutney or something like that, but it also has medicinal properties. And here are some plants that might be familiar to us. This one on this side is tulsi, the holy basil, which is a variety of basil that's used a lot in Ayurvedic medicine widely. It has many medicinal properties, and it was grown all over the place in the garden. In the middle is mint, just common garden mint, and then on the far side is ginger. Okay, so my second objective was to document some of the practices used to turn the plants into medicines. Because there weren't very many English speakers, this proved to be really difficult. So I mostly documented the plants, but I did get to help manufacture some of the medicines and learn a little bit about what went into them. So the picture on the bottom is their storeroom for the Ayurvedic medicines, and the green bottles on the bottom shelf are full of pills, some of which I helped manufacture. I think the jar that's most full there is for a general pain pill that contained something like 25 different plants in it. I, again, didn't find out the recipe completely for that, but and then in one of the other containers, there's a powder that had something, again, like 15 or so ingredients, including many ones we know, like cumin, chili powder, salt, and that was used to stimulate hunger in people who were malnourished. And then the picture on the top is of their, like the backside of their pharmacy. That's their medicine dispensary. And that whole area was all just Ayurvedic medicines. You can see there are quite a few. Then my third objective, to assist with garden operations, went really well. On the bottom here you can see myself and some other volunteers with Mukesh, one of the other gardeners. We spent a lot of time weeding, pruning, but also starting new plants. Yeah, all kinds of garden work. And then this other picture is of the garden staff as well as the staff who manufacture the Ayurvedic medicines. So the outcomes of my project were there were multiple outcomes. This is a rough draft of a database I made of all the plants, their scientific names, their location in the garden, their Hindi names, names in other languages, English names, their English common names, their families, which is, it's helpful to group them by families to understand some of their properties, and then the parts used at Sambhavna. And then the final column with their uses was really overwhelming, actually. Many of the plants have a wide variety of uses, and some of them haven't been studied formally in the Western scientific sense, but they were still recorded in many Ayurvedic texts, and that was really interesting. I also took photographs of most of the plants in the garden, and I'm putting that all together along with the database to send back to Sambhavna for their own use, which they can use in educational materials or outreach or whatever. So in conclusion, working at the Sambhavna Clinic was a really great insight into a more effective, I mean, we saw from Aman's presentation how horrible the government interventions were, a very effective, holistic approach to the health of the survivors of the Bhopal gas disaster, using traditional methods that should be and are being spread throughout the community. And it was an inspiration for my future in hopefully in something related to public health. And it also helped to nurture my interest in ethnobotany and the many ways that people use plants for medicine and other purposes. These are some of the texts I used. And I'd like to thank the donor to the Center for South Asian Studies for providing the opportunity for me to go to India and do this work, and the Center for South Asian Studies for administering the grant. Also the staff at the Sambhavna Clinic, who were very helpful, and the Tarakia, Latia, and Deshmukh families for keeping track of me while I was in India. And that's it.